I'm Richard Hatcher, and I'm here with two of the most interesting people I know. Dan Choi, the most interesting man with two legs. Say good day, Dan.
I've actually got 3 legs.
Three-legged Dan. And we've got the battler from Bendigo, the
That's
project
it.
manager you depend upon.
Mick Waters. And we're here. Looking forward to it. Dan, you're a very enigmatic man. And
I wouldn't say
was
that.
looking forward to having a broad, free-flowing conversation with you. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Was Katy Perry agenda item number 1?
We can discuss her first off the bat if you want.
So she went to space, having a good time with her mates. Was it on Bezos's dime or her own? Who paid for that?
Oh, it was absolutely Bezos' dime. I mean, it was just part of the broader billionaire slush fund, this horrific transfer of wealth from everybody to the billionaire class that's been going on. And now we're in this cesspool spiral of humanity where everything is run by billionaires.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Dan, thoughts?
I was just thinking, like, how can I make an analogous, right? Like, so would it be equivalent to, like, Usain Bolt's missus going, I run as fast as him without even running?
Yeah? Do you think she's just, like, riding on the back of...
No, but she supported him. So, technically speaking, Bezos was supported by them. Because if he went to space, no one would care. But because Katy Perry went to space, everyone's like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah, so Katy Perry went to space because she's a supposed friend of Bezos's new wife, and they just married in Venice.
They did. Did you get an invite?
I didn't get an invite. I went to Venice once when I was a very young, stinky hippie, and I wouldn't have got invited back because I was driving a bad van and I had a rat's tail. But that space flight is in response to Musk's space flight. Musk's space flight, I think, is less problematic because it's about putting technology, spreading satellites for good and bad purposes. But Bezos was just a billionaire saying, I can and I will because I've got the money, because I've managed to fleece my staff out of money by letting them piss in bottles instead of going to the toilet.
Is he not just providing outsized value to humanity with goods delivered
With Amazon...
goods delivered in record time, whatever
he's smart. They say the people in the gold rush, the people that made the most money, weren't the people mining, but the people selling goods to the miners.
I concur.
That's the clever part. And the people that make the most money are the people that sell the goods to the people that sell the goods. And then the people that make more money are the banks that lend the money to the people that buy the goods to sell the goods to get to the miners.
Did we forget the military-industrial complex? Did we touch on that? Do you know that huge bomb, the 13-ton bomb, the bunker buster bomb, that was only developed in like 2015? The Americans just wanted to test it out. And Netanyahu was like, blokes, I've got a great opportunity here. Drop your bomb, I want to see what happens.
My last shred of humanity died just the last bit I had and I was holding on to, and I was read it. So in the horrors that we've experienced in Israel and Gaza and the carpet bombing of Gaza, do you know that the shareholders that supply arms to Israel have had a great time because the shares have gone through the roof?
I could believe that.
And when the ceasefire was called off, they were making tons of money. So whilst humanity is just being carpet bombed out, people are making money.
Yeah.
The last hope I had for the world died.
So what you're saying is corruption is only corruption when you're not involved.
You know what is worse? That's not even corruption. That is the legal and intended operation of the market. So that's not even... What I wanted to talk about was a thing that I had said before, is the banality of evil. And I looked it up, and it was a lady, Hannah Arendt, who said it, who was a great thinker from years gone by, and she witnessed some of the rise of the Nazis. And it was just that people can do things. Normal people can do evil things. And what I have felt very depressed about lately is we've seemed to have normalised doing evil things. You know, Trump's got this alligator Alcatraz. Have you seen this? This is this purpose-built facility down in Florida where they're going to lock all the people up that ICE has picked up. Australia's got detention centres offshore. And people of Gaza are being killed. We're just normalising terrible behaviours to people, and it's just made me feel sad for humanity.
Why don't we normalise jokes?
Yeah, jokes would be better.
Jokes are a better thing to normalise.
But I'm just going to put it out there. Like, so how did they normalise it? Like, have you questioned how they normalise it?
Normalise evil.
Yeah, how do you do it?
Oh, bit by bit. Also, I suppose bit by bit, but also you make a lot of winners. So there's losers, but you make winners, and you make the winners powerful.
What's interesting, Japanese people never drank coffee, right?
Mm.
And to introduce coffee to them, which is a Western-style drink,
Yeah.
they fed the kids coffee lollies, right? And over generations, they got used to the taste and the buzz. And then eventually they said, okay, they're ready. And they gave them coffee in it. And now it's a multi-billion business in Japan.
It's a big deal, and they make probably better coffee.
Yeah, and
than
they've got the
Western.
best iced coffee. Like, you got a selection, and they've got the best iced coffee selection you've ever seen out of a can, right?
Yes, they do, and in vending machines, but they also make great coffee. So I think you're touching on something that you said before in the Wolf of Wall Street. How do you sell the pen? You create the necessity and the scarcity. So they created a market, and then they sold the coffee.
So what I was alluding to is, like, so how are they normalising stuff to us?
Well, they're making it so that we just don't get shocked about it anymore.
Yeah, but how?
And who's they? So I would say I agree with Mick's point. I do think some really bad behaviours are being normalised. And I think social media is probably a channel to normalise absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
And who's behind it? I mean,
Obviously, the lizards.
There's a lot of propaganda that we get through the media where we're taught that certain things, certain lives are worth more than other lives. And if some party does something wrong, they're chastised in the media. Another party does wrong or objectively wrong, then there's people coming out and justifying it and saying, this is okay, this is equivalent. You know, they're not such a bad guy.
So basically what you guys are saying is, like, it's an information war. If you control the information...
yeah, Jack Johnson wrote a song about it, and I think he was close to the mark.
Jack Johnson was one of the biggest singers in Bendigo in, like, the 90s and 2000s, and I just couldn't listen to it because I didn't find it angry enough. Like, how can I listen to you? You're on a beach, you've got no problems in the world, and then you wrote... So I'd love to know if he wrote an edgy song.
Well, I think his lyrics were pretty incisive. Yeah, absolutely. Good people, where'd all the good people go?
I see.
He talks all about those issues. And a lot of his, like, some songs of his are love songs, but a lot of them touch subtly, some more deeply on social issues, political issues.
So what was his information war song?
Well, in Good People, he talks about like turning on the TV. The concepts are just like shutting your brain off.
The idiot box. Green Day had a lot of songs about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
So, segue into this. So the Oz government wants to ban a certain age on social media after certain.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to help?
It's going to be impossible to enforce. How do you enforce that?
Well, yeah, it's like you try to enforce anything and you just create a black market. The kids these days, you can't take phones off. Everyone has a phone.
I'd be terrified to be a parent now, especially a parent of teens. Like listening to Ross talk about kids and having kids, like, it's tough.
It's really worrying. I mean, my kid's still young, and we just got our oldest a watch that we can call him and then he can call us, mainly because I'm terrified of what is out there in the world.
There's everything. And most of it is not good. I would love to return to an optimist bias, but I find it hard.
But, dude, did you have that when you were growing up?
No.
That protection?
Did I have that protection myself?
Yeah.
No, I was free range.
So
I was a free range chicken.
Do you ever question, I'm protecting this guy too much now?
Absolutely I am. And I wonder, and there's my generation growing up, we were more free range. We were bigger risk takers. We were more, and now as an adult, I'm more assertive. I'm more confident.
Mick, it's our generation, bro.
Okay, all right, our generation. I'm used to talking to Rich because
yeah.
People, if we said, people would not believe.
yeah.
Oh, mate, I still remember when Windows 95 was released. It was the greatest invention at the time.
Well, I remember when the internet was released, and
mate.
I was almost an adult.
Do you remember dialing into the internet?
Yeah, dude.
And then if someone phone called you, you could hear their voice through the modem.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're old enough. That was like full legit. Like, and it was like, don't pick up the phone.
Yeah,
it's
we
gonna
had that.
ruin the internet. It disconnected you, mate. It was like the worst thing ever, especially if you're downloading.
Well, even before that, when you wanted to have a phone conversation that was private, you had to pick up the phone from the wall and it had a long cord, and I could just get it inside my bedroom door, and then I'd lie on the floor and talk on the phone.
Simpler times.
Simpler times. Back to the information war. It's amazing that, you know, looking back even a few years gone by, the amount of information. There's no chance that we can absorb all the information that's in the world, which we spoke about in the past. I think that's one of the big drivers for the rise of AI, because everyone is so saturated and there's so much misinformation, disinformation around. They don't know which way to go, so they ask a chatbot, which even 2 years ago, you think, you know, those little, remember Clippy that used to pop up?
Yeah,
You look like you're
Clippy.
trying to make a document. Let me fuck it up for you. And now, like that was the great granddaddy of AI today, and now we rely on it so much. And you think, why do we rely on it so much? It's because there's a necessity.
Well, don't bag Clippy. He was my only friend.
You was your only friend. AI is your only friend. You were talking before about how could you fall in love with AI, and I can admit I had a committed relationship with AI quite recently.
Yeah.
So I am like a lot of middle-aged men, and I like running, and I like it a lot, and I think about it, and I obsess about it, and I plan my runs out through the week. I've missed a run on Wednesday, and I still haven't got over it, and I will plan to run tomorrow morning. So I'll run Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. And I've been injured, and I'm trying to run faster, longer, trying to run a marathon. Anyway, so what I would do is when I finish my runs, I would get home, and I would type in to ChatGPT, say, I ran this pace today, this heart rate, how do you think I'm doing? And it would always say, you're doing amazing. And I would say, thank you. I would always say please and thank you. And say, thank you. What do you think about this? Do you think I could get to this? And it would say, absolutely, you're amazing. So it was like my AI friend.
But that could be good and bad.
It's definitely bad. It's all bad.
If you're not doing good and it's telling you doing good, you're not gonna.
I know that it was lying to me.
But to go back on information,
Well, not lying to me. It was being overly kind to me.
Yeah. But to go back on information, right? So, do you think more information? Because theoretically, right, information and community and everything is supposed to bring tribes together, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could argue, right, that it probably has separated us, or it has further polarized certain tribes.
That's a
So
great question.
So the question is, right, like with the information and the algorithms and everything that's processing you, do you think you're going to become Eminem next year because AI has convinced you you're a great rapper?
And because I ate mum's spaghetti and then I've got spaghetti at my sweater already. No, I don't think that. But I think I'm a discerning fellow. No smarter than the average bear, but I think I'm discerning enough to know that I'm being led on. I'm being catfished by AI. You were talking about information either uniting us or dividing us. I think that's an amazing point, and it's been a problem, and it's been shown to be real in a lot of social media, a lot of Facebook groups.
But Mick,
there's been tribal warfare that's caused by social media because it inflames disinformation. That's one part of it. But another part of it, it points out why we're more different than we're more the same.
Yeah, but Mick, you got to remember, we grew up without this information, right?
Yeah.
So you can discern it, right? Now think about like you're growing up from now, and you think like whatever anyone posts is real. Like imagine Instagram is actually real. Like everyone's smiling, everyone's happy, everyone's a rock star. Everyone's got $1 billion.
Rich. Yeah.
Everyone can afford to go to Europe every year for 2 months.
Yeah.
Dude, that's gotta like...
Yeah, it's not good for you. I think the studies bear it out. I think it's evidenced in depression rates in teens. And teens thinking that they're going to become a YouTube star or whatever, the next Jake Paul. Role models have changed.
That is a really good point. Did you ever remember the movie Great Gatsby?
Dude,
that latest one.
Leo?
Yeah, dude, that's a great movie.
And no one ever knew how he made his money. It was no, I don't think they ever answered it.
No, it was Moonshine.
Moonshine. Okay, Moonshine.
I obviously watched it.
But everyone just loved him and they didn't even care anything about him. They just saw his life. They wanted to go to his parties. There was that one guy, the journalist, that was chasing him along. And actually, there's another movie that's quite similar, The Talented Mr. Ripley, where the guy kills the guy. Sean Seymour Hoffman, great movie. But yeah, to look up to someone and only want the good parts, only want the sweet, you miss the sour. There's something that, this is going to sound really wanky, but, I can be really wanky. Nietzsche said, the best thing I can do for my friends is wish hard times on them, because the hard times are the most important. One, they'll make you stronger, but two, you'll be able to appreciate the good with the bad.
This comes to another point, right? Like, so where does happiness derive from? What's the difference between ego and confidence?
Yeah, man. Or even should we even aspire to be happy all the time? Because that's a dangerous place as well. You can't be happy all the time.
No, you could be content, right? So the difference is, and you've touched on it, happiness is not the absence of problems, it's the ability to deal with them.
Yeah.
Likewise, that equation goes into confidence. The difference between confidence and ego, confidence is the ability to know that you got the tools to handle any problem. Ego is the absence of that.
Yeah.
The imaginary thought that you've got that when you don't, and then you get caught out.
Yeah. I'm not a religious person, but there's that saying, what is it? Lord, grant me the strength
to accept the things I cannot change.
Yeah, and the Lord, grant me the strength to accept the things I cannot change.
You're an Irish Catholic, mate. Come on.
The wisdom and then the courage to do something. Anyway, there's 3 parts. But it's about... someone in the comment section can tell me.
It's kind of like an early version of acceptance and commitment therapy.
Right. Go on.
Which is like, so there's a couple of popular schools of psychological treatment. There's like ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, and then there's CBT, cognitive
behavior therapy. I know about that one.
I don't know, but acceptance and commitment therapy, I read half a book on it once, but it's basically just like accept your situation, commit to doing better, and carry on. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm going to hash this up, and someone I love very much is going to be very angry with me. But cognitive behavior therapy is about taking the things that have happened to you and reframing how you think about them.
Okay.
So, and there's another EMT, which is another way of taking trauma and then removing the power from that trauma. So it still exists as part of you, as part of your memory, but you remove the association from it. Cognitive behavior therapy is similar, and I'm going to get this wrong, but yeah, a different thing.
So hang on. This is all touching on what I'm going to say next is, what do you think is better, having no regrets or regretting?
Definitely regretting is better.
Yeah, dude. I'm the same school of thought.
Yeah, you don't want to have ever been the person that says, I'll never try because I'll fail. I mean, failure is great. I think one of the things
You just said having regrets is better.
I think
having regrets is better.
So having regrets means that you didn't do some stuff you wanted to do. That's what you're saying.
Regretted that it could have gone better. I think you're saying having no regrets
Having no regrets means you acted, you did whatever the fuck you wanted, and to hell with the consequences. That's what I think Dan's getting at. And to have regrets is to say, you get old, you look back and you say, oh, I wish I did this, but I didn't.
Are you saying, like, is it better to have loved and lost than never loved at all?
I think you meant option A, but you chose option B.
Okay. So you're saying, would you prefer a life with no hardship, and then some joy, or a life with only joy?
Dude, so what's the statistics on lotto winners ever been happy and keeping it all and making it through for life?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing we're touching on right now, dude, because you haven't built up the skills to handle that.
Yeah, well, it's like these Premier League players who, amazing athletes, but weren't taught a lot, very young, given a lot of money at a young age, and then...
You have no life skills.
Yeah. So, back to what you were saying. I think you were saying, correct me if I'm wrong, when I'm wrong, are you saying you'd prefer to have a life, or the options are, you live a life, you have some good days, you have some bad days, but you appreciate the good days, or you live a life where it's always good? Is that the dichotomy that you're creating?
Mick, you're always right in a parallel universe.
Oh, right. So
so we're
we're
in that universe right now.
Oh, great.
All I'm saying is like, it wasn't too deep. It wasn't too thoughtful. It was like, where does your motivation come from? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
So where does it come from?
My motivation is and has been for a while to always try to do my best and try to build good things in the world, and also to provide a better life for my family.
Those are outcomes, but Dan's question was, where does your motivation for that come from? Why?
Oh, yeah. So I grew up quite poor, and as I got older, I quickly understood the value of infrastructure and services and good offerings to people, and that if certain things are provided to people and they take advantage of them, say education or healthcare, then they can do good things themselves. They can live their best selves. And I believe also that the sum of the parts, so humanity is better when it's better. And I think that everyone deserves good opportunities. That's my motivation.
Dude, I'm going to say something. My caveat is I'm not a psychologist, right? So don't take anything from this. So there's obviously two schools of thoughts, two polar opposites, right? Like you can break it down to like the root level, right? Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, right?
Yeah.
And so like everyone argues positive reinforcement is the best to train. And so you can train a dog. How do you train a dog? You give it treats, right?
Yeah.
And it listens. But if you punish it, it might not listen. So, but how do we stop humans, and we're like a more sophisticated being, technically, or animal, from speeding? We don't reward people for not speeding. We don't go, oh, congratulations. You know, you didn't speed this whole year. It's punishment. So it's just like, okay, so like, what is the best way to motivate someone? Is it positive or negative reinforcement?
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a concept in law where, law as we know it today exists because of a code of behavior. And a code of behavior was created at some point in tribal societies and kinship societies because they said, okay, if you keep killing people, we're not going to be able to survive as a tribe. So I know that this has been ascribed to religion, but pre-religion, if you keep killing people, then we won't be able to survive. And if you do good for me, I will likely do good for you. And if you steal my wife, then I'm going to have to kill you. So these sort of basic, and if you steal my goods or you take something from me, then we can't live as society. So I think, well, goodness, it's a great question. Goodness for me comes from doing good. I feel good for doing good. But for some people, goodness comes out of reciprocity. You do good for me, I'll do good for you. But then you were saying some people are good because of the the punishment that will come from them if they're not good.
So what motivates people to do good?
Well, different things.
So this is what I'm talking about, the polarizing, like what motivates you. Like we're talking about the motivation level, like the root cause. Like,
This is really good stuff. This is deep
Yeah.
as heck.
Yeah.
We're diving into the bottom of the fridge here, the freezer.
yeah, it's normally, for me, it's off greenies.
Yeah.
And I have to throw them in the compost bin and then they grow into something good.
Oh,
What do you think, Rich? Good. Where does it come from?
Man, where does it come from? So, I love all the great questions Dan's been throwing out. I think different people are motivated by different things, right?
Yeah.
Like, definitely people like Bezos are motivated by squeezing every last cent out of a production system or entity or economy.
Is he like Scarface? Money, power, women?
I guess so. I assume
First we get the money, or as Homer Simpson would say, in America, first we get the sugar, then we get the power, then we get the women.
Something like that. Different people are motivated by different things. Some people want to change society. Some people want to protect other people. Some people want to have lots of babies. Some people want to be a rock star. Some people want to go to the bottom of the ocean. Some people want to go to space. Some people want to have a happy, safe family. Some people want to write a book.
Some people don't think about it; they just go through the motions.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have a lot of choice, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
And if we were all very honest with ourselves, we're obviously very lucky to be living in Australia, pretty safe, the city that we live in, and we have a good degree of autonomy and opportunity. But we don't have complete autonomy. We still, we all work 9 to 5s.
We're still a slave to the man.
We've got to pay our dues.
That's right. Yeah,
we have degrees of freedom.
Yeah, that's right. We live within a constrained structure.
I would argue, right, this is just me, no one enjoys pain and suffering. So your motivation is to, stop the pain and suffering, right? And so the only way you can enjoy pain and suffering is when you figured out the way to stop it. So I'd argue the psychopaths that jog around Albert Lake every single day are only doing it because the reward they get.
Like
physically.
the endorphins and whatnot from running, or
No,
do you mean
maybe
like
even physically, like they're in better condition.
Yeah, sure.
There has to be a reward after suffering.
Running,
Yeah.
I run, and I can tell you do get a lot of mental feedback. You get a lot of positive mental feedback. It's also exercise is shown to be better for your mood, better for your thought process.
So what I was going to was at the end of everything, it almost always comes down to a reward, but you can't have an easy reward, is what I'm saying. So the reward has to be worth it.
There's
For the
a
amount of
cost.
suffering that you have to go through,
Sure.
the reward has to be worth it. So if you won $100 billion tomorrow and that was easy, you just bought one ticket, you wouldn't know how to appreciate it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't invest it. You'd go straight to the Coke.
Yeah.
You'd go straight.
Yeah.
What was that guy that got interviewed and he won the jackpot and the interviewer asked him what he was going to... Coke and hookers.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
I think that's-
and because he didn't earn it.
Go to the casino.
He didn't know how the value of that actual suffering.
Yeah.
And that's the most important lesson in life is learning how to value your suffering.
Well, a really interesting thing is Jimmy Carr said something in this video. It's amazing how recent life has been this comfortable. Even, our grandparents would have lived in homes, would have or could have, lived in homes that weren't connected to a sewage system. And even if they lived in a house, a nice house, it would have had one bathroom. And you wouldn't have had multiple cars. It wouldn't have been so easy to get around. Education wouldn't have been so easy. You would have had to walk a lot of places. There was no internet. There were no phones. So life and healthcare wasn't what it was. So life was much harder. And it's amazing I often wonder, as a society, as we get more evolved, we just seem to create more problems for ourselves.
More money, more problems. Yeah.
So we've created this system where life is easy. We don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about transport, healthcare, education. But we've still got heaps of problems.
I think we have lots of problems because life is more complicated because we have so much choice, right?
Yeah.
Like choice of what to eat. It's like there's 1,000 foodstuffs you can eat in the supermarket. 950 of them are really, really bad for you, right? And it's the same when you turn on the television.
And the bad
or your
ones
phone.
are so tasty and crunchy.
Exactly, right? And like, there's a bunch of bad relationships you can have. There's maybe a smaller number of positive ones you can have. Like, so out in the world, there's a lot of things to trip over in the modern world, I think.
Rich, my problem is getting invited to 6-year-old birthday parties and they're no fun.
Ooh.
Like
That's a novel challenge.
Finding you 6-year-old birthday parties.
it's just like, that's no fun, mate. Like,
It's a different sort of fun. It's we were talking today about, like, I'm a parent now, and I love doing things now that I wouldn't have loved when I was in my 20s and 30s.
dude, I would say I don't want to be invited to a 6-year-old birthday party, but I want to hang out with the kids and do kids stuff. Like, give me a whole bunch of 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and I'll take them play video games all day and I'll have a ball. But in the setting of a birthday party and it's formalized and it's structure.
Don't like the structure of 6-year-old
Structure's no deal, mate.
So you just want to lead like Pied Pipers?
No. I want to create my
Like
own.
Fagan's gang.
No. Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies.
I'm thinking of like Oliver Twist. You're like teaching a bunch of 5-year-olds to pickpocket around town, and then you bring back the riches, and then you give them beans.
Dude, that's probably the most fruitful lesson they're going to get in their whole entire life. Working and rewards.
Yeah, it's a different world for kids. I mean,
You don't appreciate the beauty of the simplicity of being a child until you become an adult.
Dude, 100%.
100%. The unstructured time, what you can do with your day. You don't just have action after action after action that needs to be done.
Do you remember when you were 8 and how long it took to get to 9?
Oh man, it's been too long.
Dude, I still remember that day, right? I still intimately.
Long year for Dan Choi.
I would have been in grade 3. So yeah, I can remember that. I used to go to school. We used to play ticky with my mates. I remember my teacher. Yeah, Miss Steert. And still found class pretty boring.
Dude, school's always going to be boring.
Yeah. I always liked school, but certain classes were very boring.
School's not aimed to make you successful. School's made you to be compliant.
Yeah, I mean, there's not.
And there's a
it's not
clear difference.
It's not an accident that you go to school when you're 5 and then you come out when you're 18. That's not an accident.
No.
Yeah.
They could if this was say a military college or the Matrix, they could condense all that learning into 4 years.
I'm going to tell you, right? This is a secret, and it's no longer probably a secret. I was terrible at school, and I only discovered learning in my 30s.
Yeah,
And
but you're a smart guy.
No, I'm not.
You're smart as.
No. But like, I
know 2 guys that are smart, and you are 2 of them.
left and right.
Yeah.
But what I was alluding to is like, I don't think the education system is fit for purpose.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I do feel for that because I also didn't like school. I had a really solid relationship with my teachers in that they hated me and I hated them equally, and we both were very clear about that relationship. So I got kicked out of one school, and then I happily went to another school, and things were much better. I hated formal education, but I love learning. And I also discovered learning when I left school, and I loved that's why I love books, because someone with a huge amount of knowledge has captured it into a book that you can get for very cheap, and you can sit down in your own time and you can read it. But yeah, the structured education system, and I have to feel for them because they have to be all things to all people. You know, you pour out a bag of M&Ms and you've got all the colours in the universe. The system is not going to work for every colour of M&Ms, and some are peanuts and some are not peanuts.
The problem I have with education is it teaches compliance instead of questioning.
Yeah, there's definitely that.
And so, like, if we want to build a system of innovation, You have to question things. You have to say, it's okay to break the rules if you understand how to make a better rule.
Yeah, but how do you teach that? Like, how do you build a teacher that says, okay, so... And the job of a teacher is really hard. I
had some teachers that encouraged me to question the status quo, just for the record.
Rule breakers?
Teaching is hard. I had an English...
Did they ride a Harley?
Not to my knowledge. But I had a couple... They're actually both English teachers. And one taught me to question information. And back then, like we're talking about back then, 2005 or whatever, when I was in high school, talking about newspapers and getting to question what's the intent of the article, what are they trying to appeal to and all that. And I had never thought about it. I thought newspapers just printed truth.
The truth.
Yeah, just the truth.
The truth? You want the truth?
And I had a couple of years later another English teacher, also similar, to question people's intentions and stuff like that. So, but they may be not the majority, and understand the curriculum is pretty straight up and down, doesn't cater to all people, all needs. Yeah,
it's a different school as well. I went to a Catholic school for most of my education, and then I finished up at a public school. And the teachers I had in the public school were amazing. I had a literature teacher, similar thing. Opened my eyes to Australian literature. That's where I first read Peter Carey. I first appreciated literature. Had an art teacher who loved smelling gum turpentine. So she was a huffer. She was a great person. I think she cooked her brain. But again, taught me a lot about art and the Australian artists like John Brack and Howard Arkley and those guys. But that was really an unstructured, broad way of learning and to engage with the materials myself, which I didn't have in the first type of education. So the second was definitely better. And the teachers I had from the first school didn't love me, as I said, and I did not love that back.
Yeah, I'm glad I was not those teachers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what would work for me, right? Whenever I was at school, if a teacher came up to me and goes, you don't need to be here if you can prove that you don't need to be here, I would have been out. I would have done and dusted the whole curriculum in 2 days. And the problem is, like, they make you sit there and they make you repeat the same words, same verbatim out of a book, and you get rewarded for that. And I actually made it all the way to, in my mid-30s, learning how to be a tape recorder.
Yeah, to be like...
Dude, I never thought.
Repeat. Yeah, like a parrot.
100%, man. I just never thought. And then I only realised that you can think after I wanted to break rules. And I realised that being in line doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, there's a way to... The way that I've learnt to learn is just to question and then stack information on top of information on top of information, and then question how it all figures out together, and then repeat that over and over again until it builds some structure in my brain, some synapse, some neural pathways.
Do you know what I would have loved when I was like a little kid? If a teacher told me the world doesn't reward average.
Yeah.
That would have been deep.
That's a good point. But how did you, like, you're pretty across your subject. How did you drill that into your brain then?
I got punished for average.
Okay.
And so, like, I go back to motivation. Like, how do you get motivated? You want to end suffering. So then if you give your child comfort and you said, oh, I want my child to be safe.
Yeah.
Are you now doing a disservice?
Yeah. I know I am. So you're saying that you learnt because you were punished for not knowing the content.
Look, put it this way, right? I'm willing to go through much more suffering than most people to get a reward, because I know that's the formula. But if you've taught someone that, a certain amount of suffering doesn't get you rewards, how are they willing to take that edge? And then the next thing you know it, they're going to come into the world and they're going to compete with someone that wants to suffer. And then next thing you know it, we want to bring people into the community that will suffer more than them and compete against them. And then you're going to say, have I done the right thing for my child?
I mean, it's a good point, and I feel like the question is being asked directly of me.
Well, you're the only parent here. I've probably got some kids, and my whole family.
And I know you're completely right. If I think of people that have created things and systems that have been created, thinkers and artists, they didn't punch in at 9:30 and leave at 4:30. They just locked into something. They drank absinthe for 5 days straight, and they shit in a bucket in the corner and just committed themselves to something. The greatest writers, there's writers, some writers that would just punch in and punch out, and that's one method, just the grudge. But the real artists, the Picassos, the Howard Uckleys of the world, they would lock themselves in a room, and they would take a bunch of acid, and they would not leave that room until they'd left. They'd created all sorts of works, and there's writers like that as well. So yeah, I often say this to my son, is who, like me, is a bit on the spectrum. I've said, well, no one normal has ever created anything worth being created. So yeah, you can't be normal, whatever normal is.
Let's not be so mean to the normal people. Yeah, I'm sure they do some good stuff too. Okay. But there's nothing wrong with being abnormal.
Bless the normies.
Bless the normies.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being abnormal. In fact, we would not have innovation. We wouldn't have electricity if it wasn't for the weird people.
Dude, so do you remember when we were growing up, how you'd get ridiculed for being a tryhard?
Yeah.
It's bad, isn't it? Bad culture.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Australian tall poppy syndrome of anyone who was a reader. Like, I was always reading in the library. Oh, you nerd burger. Oh, what are you...
I still call people nerd burgers, by the way.
It's a great put-down. It's a great put-down. Classic. Anything with burger attached to it, it's like a positive.
Burgers are good, bud.
Burgers are great. The cheesier the better, with a brioche bun. Yeah, and my son gets that a bit because he's a huge reader. He, like me, I would I used to read the Goosebumps books and Tomorrow When the War Began and just devour them, and he's the same. And yeah, we, especially in Australian society, if you're good at sport and you're normal and you swim in the middle lane and you're attractive-ish and you don't upset the apple cart, you're going to do fine. You're going to do fine up until a point, up until you're like 18. You think you've done great, you've hit 18, and then you go into the workforce and you go, so what is it about you? What special characteristics? And then they find that you're like a zoo with only sheep in it, and that's a little bit interesting, but it's not that interesting. And if they say, okay, what, and you'll still get through life. Totally, you get through life and it'll be fine. But if you want to create something out of the box, then you may struggle.
One thing I learned, right, in an early age is it's value add, right? So if you ever want to be master of your domain, you have to add more value than you take. It's like business. How do you make a good business? You have to invest more. You have to make more than you invest. So what's the investment for you, right? So if a business works in just say financial sense, I've got to invest this much and I'm going to make a 10% return in a year, question yourself, say, what value am I adding?
Yeah, it's a good question.
That makes you valuable, right? And so a lot of people I had a friend go, oh, Daniel, I've asked for a pay rise and I've been rejected 3 times in a row. I said, okay, are you following your PD? Yes. And she goes, okay, what else have you done? And I'm like, I come to work at the same time. I did it. But okay, so what does everyone else do? She goes, same thing. I say, what value are you adding? And then it was just like, I'm like,
do you guys still talk?
Yeah. I'm like, dude, give someone something they need, then take it away.
I like to write and I like to paint, and it's amazing that when you lock into something, you almost it feels like you've transcended something, that you've touched this other realm and that you're existing in a different place, even for a short amount of time. And creative types will say this a lot, that they feel like something is speaking through them and they're being used as a vessel. And everyone's got different personas. Everyone's got different parts. They say, I've got corporate stooge part, but another part where things will come through me and I can say things and I can feel things that I couldn't another way.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've definitely heard that from creatives that I respect, like John Frusciante. He's my favourite guitar player, and he's said similar things about music and how he thinks it's ridiculous for any musician to take responsibility for any piece of music they've generated.
Wow, that's really selfless.
I'm going to say something, right? Obsessing is not a good thing, right?
Right, okay.
And hear me out for 2 seconds, right? So if you obsess about a girl, but she doesn't like you, that's creepy, bro, right? And so, like,
you gotta be careful what you obsess
I think
over.
100%. So, no,
there's
so
a difference between obsession and obsessing.
yeah, and so no, but somewhat similar, right? So it all comes down to back to the basics of cause and effect, right? It's a scientific process. Put an input, see what the output is, and if it's not the desired output, change the feedback loop, right? And so what I'm trying to say is, like, if you're obsessing about something and you don't see a result, don't keep obsessing about it. That's dangerous. Like, that's how stalkers develop.
Yeah, but also, people, but can I just chat? So you just said, okay, so input, output. Okay, what about what happens inside the machine? What happens inside the system? So we all take external stimuli. Mm-hmm. We all see the world. We feel the world, we sense the world. But then it's what happens inside here that determines the output.
Here we go. This is going deep. So what is control theory?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't
This
know.
isn't a grid connection podcast.
So control theory is not understanding what the process is. It's controlling the output.
Yeah. So that's a psychological.
I'm struggling to
as well,
tie
so.
this back to women and...
Well,
careers.
hang on. I'll explain it easy to you. I'll explain it to you. If you ask a woman out and she says no, that's a no. That's not consensual.
Sure.
So that's a feedback loop. But it's no.
But if you're trying a career and you
I
fail...
don't think we need to talk about... I don't think we need to talk about a predatory sense about women. I was just talking about in a general sense about...
occupations.
An occupation or a pursuit or an art or music.
I'm going to tell you... I'm going
fail.
to...
What about
You're allowed to...
Think about someone like Rooney in his day or Messi in his day.
Yeah.
They will see, they'll take in all the inputs like everybody else, but the output is different.
Okay, so I'll break it down for you, right? You're a PM. Do you understand every process?
As many as I can carry.
But what do you understand more?
Systems.
No. Goals, outputs.
Yeah, and
That's measurable.
yeah, yes,
Systems don't get you projects done.
they do.
Outputs do. Understanding how to get the outputs, and then you make the systems to get the
output
outputs
through a system.
Yeah, exactly.
So I
So you don't need to understand the system. You need to create a system.
I need to know that one exists, and if it doesn't exist, then I need to create it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So all I'm saying is, like, so there's a process. We don't need to know how it works. We don't even know how gravity works, right? But we use it to go. We go use it to go to the moon.
People know how gravity works.
I think there are a couple of theories on
Yeah,
that.
there's totally.
Okay. So how does gravity work?
Gravity is a force that pulls something to.
But it's a function
center.
of mass.
Okay, and then let's break that down. How does two masses attract to each other?
Gravity.
Are they magnetic?
Hey,
or
were we talking about
non-magnetic?
planets or?
Are they magnetic?
Well,
or
hang on. You
non-magnetic?
guys said you understand gravity. I'm saying I don't.
I'm not saying I personally know the ins and outs of gravity, but I'm saying that the scientific community has a grip on it.
No,
and I
no.
believe it's a.
We, as in humanity, we, or do you mean?
No.
us,
So we understand it, but we don't know how it works. Like, we don't know
Oh, we
what's
understand
causing.
that it exists.
So what?
Like the brain. We sort of understand it, but we don't fully understand.
Yeah. So it goes back to control theory, right? There's an input, our mass. The output is where that mass goes, but we don't understand the process. So we replicate the feedback loop.
I'm sure physicists would.
Look, we can go to the chat, and if anyone can go tell me how gravity works, then
I'm
much.
sure Isaac Newton would not.
He just saw an apple drop to the ground, and he goes, "Dude, am I this stoned, or I know what's going on here?" And he wrote the theory of second law.
There's mathematical equations for it.
Yeah, there is mathematical equations, but
Yeah.
like But then how does that work in physics? What's actually creating that force and effect?
If only we paid attention in high school, we
Right,
could answer these questions.
I see what you
And do you know what the fundamental problem of all this is?
You're redlining a little bit.
Is like, if understanding gravity got you girls, we'd all understand gravity.
So you're saying
Yes, go ahead.
whatever gets you girls would be the things that we understand.
There's way more to life than that.
No, there's not, Mick. Let's be
No, there
honest.
isn't. Let's break it down. Let's go there. 100% I'll go there.
So
There's way more to life than that.
So why do you shower every day?
To feel clean.
if there were no
Because
women on
my-
planet Earth, I would still shower every day.
Because my skin,
reckon?
my
Yeah,
skin is
100%.
very sensitive and I feel dirty.
I don't like feeling dirty.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. But like, so
You're quite well groomed, I
Did you
imagine.
not shower today?
I don't know. I probably didn't. But I'm clean most of the time.
I'm a 1 to 2 to 3 a day shower.
I believe in showering before bed. Actually,
Yeah.
you can't sit in your filth, right? Like that's.
Well, in summertime, I'm a 3 to 4 shower a day.
yeah.
And if I lived in Malaysia, it'd be 57.
So you're a sweater.
I'm a sweater. Yeah, I'm a big hulk of a man, and I've got hair and I sweat.
That means you.
Like Daniel Ricciardo, sweat. Gig. You know that Daniel Ricciardo clip?
Sorry.
Nah, dude.
I'm a high performance
I'll accept
athlete.
that you sweat.
This is what he said. I'm a high performance athlete. Athlete sweat. Gigi.
Okay.
Look into it. Very funny.
Okay.
No, my argument is right. Like most guys are very simple, basic, right?
All guys are very simple and
Yeah,
basic.
yeah. And so the most beautiful thing about life is discovering women.
Unless
And-
you're gay.
Yeah, unless you're gay, right?
Or appreciating men.
Yeah, appreciating men. But like, the most beautiful thing about women is they teach us to be the best person that we can be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I would say that. I would say that.
They do not tolerate losers. So the very fact that you have to reach your actual potential, we owe it all to them. So they say behind every great man is a great woman.
That's a really good point. I mean, I definitely credit my. I grew up as a nihilist anarchist that was pretty sure that I would make it to 23 and I would flame out like Van Gogh. And then re-met my wife and thought, well, let's try for 30. And now I'm over 40.
You know what? A life without women would be like winning Tats Lotto without working.
You all pleasure with no pain.
Dude, they are the greatest thing that ever happened to us. Serious.
But we happen to each other. Men also happened
Yeah.
to women.
I agree. But like
So why don't women just all marry each other then?
No, but we don't acknowledge this far enough because everyone fails to realize like the value of women, right?
I don't.
No, but like
I've got an amazing mum who raised me.
Well, fair dinkum, but like it's like they try to measure it with different sort of measures, but like let's put it real. Most people wouldn't have a standard if it wasn't for them.
It's a really interesting point, Dan. I think there's probably some
interesting
truth
point.
for that. But
I think the one of the biggest crimes in history is that women. You were talking about this before about women's inventions not getting, but women's place in just history. You know, they say
Like Marie Curie.
like Marie Curie, but even before that, to say, and then, the Roman Empire expanded into this territory. Okay, that's fine, but it wasn't just the men; it was the women of the men, and in the Viking Age, the women were warriors as well, and in some societies, women were warriors as well. But just as part of that society of wives and mothers, and the sad thing about history is that women just don't get remembered.
What I liken it to is like a sport, right? You can't have all full forwards, or you can't have all strikers, or you can't have all goalkeepers.
So are we the strikers or the?
No, I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is it's a team, right? So everyone has to have a role, a function in the team, and they have to work in in unison. So every great strategy in like say Ange Postecoglou's strategies, right?
Yes,
they only work
some of them are good, some of them are bad.
They only work if the whole team works together.
That's right. They only work if they're taking chances in the backline.
And the whole team works, and the whole team works on the same philosophy. They all work in unison, and that's analogous to life. The reason why we got this far, the reason why we beat apes, the reason why we beat Neanderthals is because we can work together. For some reason, we've lost that.
That's a good point. We seem to be much more concerned with how different we are than how similar we are.
No, knowing roles and functions and what you're good at, what I'm good at, and just working as a team.
Do you mean we were talking about like in terms of organisations, nations, globally?
Oh, everything, man. Like say for example, right? Australia's not going to be a manufacturing power.
Okay.
Not of most things. Some things it's possible for some things, like high end, high value goods.
But I'm not sure even how that proves your point, Dan. Like, we could be good at it, but we've just got a large mineral endowment, and to date, that's been enough to keep our economy ticking along.
Where the guy that won the lottery,
Yeah.
or the other analogy, the guy that met a woman without having a kid without a woman. Donald Horn says we're the lucky country. He didn't mean it as a positive. He meant it as a negative. That we are just like the drunk that's walking home and falls over and then finds this big cache of money and then sells it to China.
Yeah.
And then wages war with China at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. If Australia wants to compete in the coming decades, we need to focus on education and something other than mining and houses.
Well, no. We need to focus on control theory. So control theory is the theory of controlling outputs by understanding what inputs you put in.
So what outputs are we controlling?
Let's just say we want to compete in manufacturing, for argument's sake, right?
Okay.
So what's the inputs to manufacturing?
Wages,
minerals,
costs,
technology, education, engineers.
compliance.
Yeah, let's just break it down, right? Like, so it's resources, right? So you got to put some sort of resource in, right?
Yeah.
Training, though. I mean, it's not just
of course,
it's not just widgets. You've got to have skilled people.
Yeah. But
engaging with the widgets.
So, dude, you're competing with the whole world now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you got to go, okay, every single input has to be less energy than everybody else, but more value.
Yeah, this is something that China understands incredibly well. For thousands of years, they've been making and selling things, and they know now that everything is the global marketplace. And so if I can innovate a bit more, I can sell more to more markets.
So this goes back to the Messi and Ronaldo sort of.
Yeah.
So everyone goes, oh, who's the GOAT, Messi or Ronaldo, right? And some people go Ronaldo because stats, this and that, and other people say Messi because he's won a World Cup. But you know what? I look at the difference between the two. One has less inputs than the other. I'll let you discover which one has less inputs than the other and has achieved more outputs. So who's in more control?
Like about Messi or Ronaldo, Cristiano, like Portuguese Ronaldo we're talking about.
It comes down to the question, like, what do you value more? Someone that has a harder circumstance and can get a good output, or someone that has less inputs and can create better value and for that output?
Well, so to sustain a system for longer, it would be more with less.
Interesting. So you're the Messi.
Well, Messi looks like he's doing less, but I think he's doing more, but a lot of it's cerebral.
I thought we were talking about their upbringings and maybe one was more impoverished.
I think we're talking about efforts on the field and then outcomes on the field.
Yeah. So, dude, they're probably about the same level of, like, economies. Maybe Ronaldo had it tougher. I'm not too familiar with that.
I think they both had it tough.
Yeah.
I think you're saying is who runs more on the pitch and who scores more goals.
Well, obviously, one's looks more of a physical athlete.
Totally.
Tries harder to be more of the physical athlete.
CR9 does. Cristiano Ronaldo.
7.
I was thinking Brazilian Ronaldo, sorry.
The OG.
Yeah.
And then you got Messi, who looks like he's walking around most of the game, and he does.
He is. Yeah, he does walk.
He does.
But he's scanning as he walks.
No, he's efficient. No, but like
He's taking in stimuli.
no,
And then he's acting on the stimuli.
no, it's efficiency. But like it's like sometimes being in a position creates opportunities for other people, and that's analogous to life too. You're like.
And get this back to Australia before we get deep into football talk.
Sometimes Australia is not scanning and not in a position where it can be opportunistic.
Oh, completely. And we don't make...
And Messi knows the position he needs to be in to make that happen. And he doesn't even have to work hard. He's in that position.
I don't think Australia has a strong national identity. I don't think we know what we want. You know, we're pretty splintered. Lots of people want different things. We don't know what we want.
What do you think the cause of that is?
I think it's probably true. It's true of the States as well. It's true of the UK. It's true of Canada.
Yeah, and what's common to all of them?
We're white.
No, they're not. They're not.
Like,
it's dare I say, it's probably too much change in too little time, in a small amount of time, and that change hasn't been able to galvanize. Do you remember we were talking about galvanization?
Yes.
And we're like, it's a slow process, and then it forms these.
It's also a great Chemical Brothers song.
Yeah, it's
Galvanize.
strong.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, the whole reason why galvanizing is an analogous, and we're like, we need to galvanize because what happens is the zinc fights off all the electrolytes and stops oxidization. And so, like, how are we galvanizing now?
Well, there's a couple ways, good and bad.
Oh,
The bad, which is happening at the moment, is around a common enemy and war, which is the common one that people use. I always put this down to the Obama method, which is the hopey changey method, or the George Bush method, which is the fear and control method. And so the hopey change method is much harder. You're trying to motivate people around a common goal, a common aspiration, common goods that we like, or oh my god, those Sudanese guys are gonna steal your pizza from Lygon Street. You better back me.
So hang on, what do you think Albo's doing as a fellow Hawthorn supporter? What do you think he's doing for us?
The battler from Balmain.
Yeah.
I think he's playing the long game. And I think he's playing the small target strategy, but he's playing a smart game.
Could you break down for us idiots over here what a small target strategy means?
Right. So
I'll speak for myself.
So a small target strategy is okay. So in geopolitics, there's big players, there's little players, and there's middle players. So America is a big player, China is a big player. Germany's a big player, and there's some people that think they're big players, but they're not so big. And then you've got middle players. Australia's a middle player. Probably France is a sort of middle player. And then you've got the small players, like the small islands, like, but like New Zealand, those sort of players. Sorry to our New Zealanders.
You had to pick New Zealand. This is why they hate us.
They have less sheep than us.
This is why we're not friends. So he's playing a small target strategy, which is he understands the place, the middle power place, and he is attaching himself, but not too closely, to the major powers, to America, to Britain. But at the same time, he's not being offensive.
I'm still not clear on what's the small target.
So a small target is okay. So if you're walking down the street and you're wearing a pink shirt, you're going to make yourself a target.
Sure.
If you're walking down the street and you're wearing black like everyone else, you make a small target.
So you make it harder to hit.
Yeah. Well, even harder to see. That's the more important.
So hang on, is he aiming at something or is he the target? Who's the target?
So he doesn't want to be a target.
So
he's got.
Oh, so he's being inoffensive.
Yes.
So there's nothing.
Inoffensive is the right word.
Okay.
So he's being inoffensive on a domestic scale and an international scale.
Sure.
So he's being all things to all people,
Sure.
whilst trying to conserve his own integrity.
Yeah.
So he's playing the long.
It's a tricky game.
Playing the long game, which is another political word. Long game. So he's got a plan. He's just got into his second term. He's doing well. He won comprehensively, but Did he win comprehensively, or did the opposition lose comprehensively? It could be either way. And now he's got a program, and he doesn't want to kill himself politically in the time it takes him to achieve that program. So his plan is small target. Like if you're a duck, imagine you're a duck, right? And it's duck season. And your friend, his name's Drake, and he wears like a fluorescent vest in duck season.
You're talking about me.
Like this guy. He's going to get shot to shit. So you just wear your normal...
So you become a big target by picking fights, standing on heels.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're a big
things.
power, right, like America, like Trump or China, you can pick the fights and you can get away with it because you can back it up.
Okay, there's no right or wrong answers. How would you become PM? How would you become PM?
Do you mean the process of how would I
No. How would you? Like, don't even
how
think
would I
about...
behave?
No. What would you do?
What would I
What would be my
prioritize?
platform?
Yeah, like what's your strategy? Because he's
Yeah.
just described Albo's strategy.
Sure.
So what would you do? What would you do?
Yeah, I got an answer. Mix rearing to go. You go Mick.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this like way too often. So I would love to create wealth for the nation, and I would love to create a fair and just society. And the only way we can do that is through lots and lots of money. And I would seek to get that through creating a fairer chunk of royalties from our minerals. That's going to get me cancelled. The first one that's going to get me killed straight away.
How is that going to get you cancelled? That's wildly popular with the voters. That's wildly popular.
Kevin Rudd tried that and he got knifed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not by the voters.
Yeah, but the voters don't have as much power as the Mineral Council.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So that would get me killed straight away. And then I would also try to look into high value sectors, and I would promote a huge amount of learning. I would make education free. I would improve as much as I could living standards for everyone, including our Aboriginal brothers and sisters, and I would try to make that popular. Whether I would succeed or not, I don't know, because the information war would come back at me, and then the people that would lose from me would try to snipe me.
What would you do, Rich?
What I'd do. So I think I like just about everything that Mick said. Pretty aligned with that. But my big focus is the things I care about, the things I think about all the time are wealth inequality and sustainability. Like sustainability has been a buzzword for like 10 years or so. But very few people think seriously about the concept of sustainability. The way we live in the West, including Australia, is very unsustainable per capita. We're one of the least sustainable nations on planet Earth. Land clearing, species loss, pollution. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Every 5 years, the federal government releases a State of the Environment report, and the trajectory is clear. Once you lose a species, you don't get it back. Once you build a property development over a wild landscape, it doesn't come back. So we're making all these one-time transactions with such long effects. We don't have a goal for what would be a sustainable population level for the country. At the moment, we're pretty much operating. The system is operating on the basis of how many people can we fit in the country as quickly as possible, how much can we build over everything, how many minerals can we extract and sell, and screw the tax, screw the royalties. Like the Australian population doesn't do very well
do very poorly.
Yeah, so Gina Reinhardt does well. A handful of people do very, very well.
Forest does well. The BHP board does well. But look at countries in Scandinavia that tax adequately and they have free healthcare.
Absolutely.
Free education.
Yeah. I'd bring housing prices back to earth. That would get me shut down by everyone.
That'd get you killed.
I would not vote for you, hands down.
Yeah,
sure.
So this is power.
Yeah.
Your money power.
Dude, 100%. And so, like, that's why I raised the question, right? And so you guys...
How would you become PM?
I'd start a cult. And you know what?
Can we pause it for a second, or can I step out? And...
So I'm keen to understand how you would start a cult and become PM, or is it too soon? You want me to?
No. Let's go down. I'll start a cult, right? So I asked the question, how would you be PM, right? So the default position for both of you was to be the good guy.
Well, the Barack Obama option.
Yeah, no, but be the good guy.
Yeah, and what's your alternative?
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't say
I would pursue goals that I think are good for Australia and the planet.
Yeah. But like, I'm not saying like I said the goal was to become PM, right? So, in actual fact, it's like it's.
Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought it was what would your policy platform be.
No, it's okay. But like, and I'll go back to this: it's systems, control theory, right? Inputs, outputs. So the output is become PM. You don't care what the inputs. Oh, you care what the inputs is, but you don't care what the process is. So you will do whatever process is there, but you just need to put the right inputs into to get the output.
Yeah, but that's the banality of evil.
Yeah. So, but and I'm not saying anything about right or wrong. I never said do the right or wrong thing. I said the outcome is to become PM. So, what do you think DT's done?
Yeah, completely. Yeah,
yeah,
power.
and so
obtain power for power's sake, not to do anything. Not to do anything with it.
And I'm just going back here. I'm just saying, like, man, cults. Like, there's some cults that make people commit suicide.
Most cults make you commit suicide.
Yeah, dude, how do you do that?
But
like, that's unworldly power, right?
But then they have sex with you for a long time.
Yeah, no, but how do you do that? That's very persuasive, right? And so like to go
you take advantage of a lot of people.
Yeah, but like let's just break it down. And so one of your arguments was like, I want to make everyone rich, right? No, so
I don't think I said that. I said I want to make people
make Australia wealthy.
Yes, Australia wealthy to provide for people.
In order to do so, and we live in a society of finite resources, and money is finite, right? There's only a certain amount of balls, and it's like all the balls can go in one court.
Money is not as finite as people say it is.
No, it 100% is. But hang on.
There is a finite amount of things that money can buy, right?
Correct. And it has a value.
Yeah, because if you just doubled the money supply overnight,
of course,
it's inflated.
It's inflated.
Yeah. So
it's
what
not just money. It's
what I'm arguing is to make one country
power.
What I'm arguing is to make one country rich, you have to make another poor. Someone has to suffer.
I disagree with that, Dan.
That is mercantile theory, and that's this. Like China doesn't believe in that. China believes that
it doesn't make. I think we could. Sorry to interrupt you, Mick, but I think it's just not quite true for one country to be rich, another has to be poor. Because if we wind the clock back like 1,000 years, everyone's poor, right?
No, but how does value being created?
Well, that's mercantilism. They think I get something that's scarce and then I sell it to you.
You're talking about redistribution, but I'm talking about how is value created. Well, you extract minerals, you build shit, you educate people. Agriculture gets more advanced, but it doesn't.
You get resources and then you improve those resources.
Value comes from something that's uncommon.
You're always coming out of left field. Can you explain that one to me? I don't understand
that. It doesn't have to be uncommon. Like,
explain.
Like gold is super.
Okay, I'll put it this way, right?
All right.
Air's not valuable to you right now because you're breathing it. Yeah?
Sure, there's lots of it, I guess. Yeah, we can pollute it because we don't give a shit.
You're 20 meters on the ocean. Air's the most valuable thing.
Scarcity. You're saying scarcity and necessity.
And so it's like sell me this pen, right?
Scarcity and necessity.
I want to sell you air. I'll make you go scuba diving. You pay $200 for 40 minutes for air, 20 minutes on the ocean. So, would you pay $200 to sit here with me for 40 minutes?
How does this get back to you? No. How does this get back to you leading a cult?
So the cult is creating value, right? And I'm just talking about systems, control systems, right? So the outcome is like, let's go back to scuba diving, right? I want to make air valuable. I'll put you 20 meters under the ocean. Air is the most valuable resource that you want to see, right? Or breathe or feel, right? And the same thing is like, with anything. Like you guys were talking about, like, you know, wealth, money is not about everyone can be rich. No, that's the biggest.
I don't think
I'm not saying everyone can be rich, but what I'm saying is, let's say you have two countries, a rich country and a poor country. You could have a scenario where the rich country is preying on the poor country and exploiting it, which has happened many, many times and still happens. But you could have another scenario whereby laws were fair, the other country wasn't exploited, there was trade, and living standards were even across both countries.
And
that's theoretically plausible.
Distribution of that wealth, and this is not about
there's two problems.
Communistic or socialistic system. It's just saying that don't create a system, don't create a world where billionaires become common, because that just means that the transfer of wealth is away from the people actually doing the work and producing the goods and going upwards through the system.
I would argue billionaires can never be common.
What?
They can never be common.
There's lots of billionaires, Dan.
Yeah, but how can they
Yeah,
be
but
common?
as a percentage of the population, they're very small.
They can never be common because wealth is finite, right? And so if everyone was a billionaire, like we go back to the theory of inflation,
Yeah.
money would be worthless, right? So that's something that can never happen, right? And so the fact that they've got to that point, they've created a cult of wealth or value, whatever they're selling. Like, so Elon Musk
Theft.
has a product.
Theft.
Not
It's a
theft. Come on, man. Like, hang on. Amazon Prime. Mate, you're watching it. You're giving Bezos money. I ain't watching it. I ain't giving him money, but most people give him money. And that's why he's in the situation he's in. He's created a cult.
Right.
And I'm just arguing right now.
There's a system that I believe in so much, and it's you should get paid for the work you do.
100%. That's capitalism.
No, that's not capitalism. Capitalism is what you were saying. Get the most outcome out of the least input. That has nothing to do with
Oh, yeah, true.
workers.
Sorry, yes.
That has nothing to do with paying workers. Capitalism would be happy to pay no one anything.
But likewise, like I've been to Cuba, bro, and they all get paid the same. I've seen a gardener sleep in a wheelbarrow all day, and I'm just like, dude, that's peak, right?
I'm just
But
saying,
not only that-
I'm just saying that there's a system that exists where you do a job, you get paid good for that job, you work hard enough and you're happy enough that you can create wealth for someone. You don't receive all of that wealth, but that's fine because in the trade-off you get a happy society, a safe society, and you can get public transport and drive on good roads. But you're not being forced to piss in a bottle. You're not being unsafe. You're not being victimized in your workplace.
Okay, so I've got two arguments. I'm going to talk about quality, and then I'm going to finalize on my argument about the PM stuff.
And your cult.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about, the cult, right? If you wanted to actually become PM, you got to make a galvanizing force. And so one thing I respect about Trump, and I'm not saying he's right or wrong, he's created a galvanizing force enough to get him in office, right? And that speaks more than... I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm just saying he understands that process. He understands control theory, and he understands how to get him in office, right? Now, the other factor of the matter is we're talking about how do you discriminate between, like good and bad, and like, so what you guys wanted to create was a society of quality, right? So how do you create quality, right? Quality is imaginary, right? The only way you know quality is you have to see something worse than that. So how do you know someone's attractive? You have to see someone ugly. So in actual fact, the quickest way to be attractive is to have an ugly friend.
Yeah, I think there's a law of comparisons in that.
Dude,
yeah.
And that's deep, man. So if I wanted to sell myself as Albo, I just have the best opposition leader, and he got gifted that, bro.
That's interesting.
There is a there's the straw man theory to build up it's a real or imaginary thing and make that terrible. But back to your Trump thing is. Sure, he's acquired power, but for what end? Is he acquired power just to have power, maintain power, and create riches for himself, or is he acquired power to spread that to everybody? And I know the answer,
dude. I honestly, I think it's very simplistic, right?
Yeah, it's the first one. He's acquired power for the sake of acquiring power.
It's not.
Create wealth for himself.
No, it's not even wealth. It's not that he's got all the money in the world. Like he
doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
He's indebted everywhere. His business model is to borrow heavy from
I think he's okay.
Russians.
Dude, no, hang on,
He borrowed heavy from the banks, and then he borrowed heavy from the Russians. He's rich in, you would say, inflated assets, but he doesn't have money in the bank.
Dude, wealth is completely so what he understands is leverage positions.
He understands that,
and I'm not gonna let's forget about it. But I think more so, he's at a level of he don't need no money, right? Like he's not me, he's not you, he's not you.
Yeah. He's not
wouldn't have to
doing
pay for anything.
He's
now
not doing
anyway.
his own shopping.
Dude's rolling, right? Like, let's be real. He's rolling, right? He's not the average person, right?
Whether it's real money or fake money.
So, okay, now let's take two steps back, right? what does he do? What did he do before all this? He builds developments. So what does he do with his development? Well, no, let's hold out there. Like, he builds developments. Let's say he builds developments. What does he do with those developments? He puts his name on them.
No, he doesn't build them. He puts his name on them when they're built.
Yeah, okay. But
he's been principal for building developments.
Yeah, but like, let's not worry about that.
But those building developments never paid their workers. They went bankrupt.
He's a bad guy.
Mick,
he's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Mick,
yeah.
no, that's not what the point. So you're probably going off on a tangent here. The most important point is he puts his name on the side. Now, okay, so he puts his name on the side, right? Now that same guy is going to become president. So the very fact he creates a product, puts his name on it, that's a brand.
Yeah.
Now, how do you make that brand even better?
How?
What's eternal?
You're right, actually. Trump brand is the premier brand on planet Earth. It can't be made better.
And so...
Is this about God?
No. So what's eternal? Like, if you get the like Usain Bolt, right? He's immortalized because he's got a record.
Yes.
All right. So now, when you become whatever number president you are,
45 and 47.
Exactly. That's forever. No one can take that away. He's in there.
I see.
And so he's willing, and so what he's trying to do is just basically control theory. He's trying to create output. He doesn't understand the process. He's just putting inputs until he gets that output, and the output is he wants some sort of immortality for his efforts, because he realizes he's probably close to the end of life, right? And he probably hasn't got anything, like, his wife doesn't probably love him. His sons probably somewhat love him. But
Don't fear him.
What is he creating? He's creating a legacy. He's opening doors and channels that would, like, the Kennedys.
I don't think you'll be remembered quite like the Kennedys.
I thought about this the other day of, like, the fall of the Roman Empire, and people will remember the last emperors, but it'll just be like this footnote, and they'll look back, they'll pick up and go, "Oh my God, he was always wearing a red hat. He was funneling money. He was getting paid money by the Russians. He was building. He was playing golf all the time. How did this happen?" And people will look back and go, "How could people have gotten around this?"
Yeah, I guess it depends which way collectively our morality goes. Like, in this era in the West, where social media is sort of allowing us to just latch onto whatever value system we want, and for that to be bolstered by our echo chamber, then in 100 years, maybe Trump looks like a moral character. I don't know.
I hope not. But back to your point, I mean, yes, if you wanted to... If you wanted to be a businessman, so if you wanted to be Bezos, if you wanted to be Musk, and you go through all nefarious means to achieve that, okay, that should be, but it's not illegal. It may be immoral and it may be unethical, but it's not illegal. So the structures are being created for you to do that. If you then take those practices and then pivot them towards achieving the highest office in the land, be it Prime Minister or President, there's a different level of immorality, and it's still not illegal, it's totally legal, but there's a different level of immorality to that, because you've put yourself in a powerful position to impact millions of people's lives, or billions of people's lives, all because you wanted to amass power. And then you have the power, and you're not going to do good with that power. There's a level of immorality that starts bordering on evil.
It's hugely consequential. I agree, Mick. I think the same thing about Putin, obviously, just because he's got this wild idea. He wants to retake Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are dying and Ukrainians are dying. And the war crimes, the abuse, the loss of infrastructure, the waste of everyone's time, the generational trauma, that
Yeah,
will...
all these dictators, like Kim Jong-un, Netanyahu, Trump is a dictator now. Just to get to that level, sure, you've achieved that level. It was hard. You put the work in. You got there. But if you're not there to try to make anyone's life better, then that's just, in my mind, that's just evil.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I'd agree with you, but I think good and evil are subjective. I don't believe there's absolute good or evil.
I think there's an objective. There's got to be, there's got to be self-evident truths. There's got to be things that are objectively right and objectively wrong.
I disagree. I think
it's a blurred line. I agree with you.
Yeah, because I think...
So if I go out on the street and I kill someone with a machete...
It still comes back to your value systems, right? So we could say that...
But in society...
No, hang on. I'll take it back even simpler than that, right? You can kill someone with a machete if they're going to kill 10 other people. Now, we don't value that in the legal system, but like everyone will regard you as a hero.
Actually, the legal system will allow you to get off on that as self-defense. So even in the legal system, that is still valued.
So humanity...
As long as they also had a machete. Because if they didn't, then you're in trouble.
No, but if they had a gun, you did it even better.
If they had a gun and you killed them with a machete and they were going to kill 50 people, you would get a medal.
Yeah.
We all agree on that.
Yeah.
But we're looking at this through a human...
But if I went out on the street, the guy is not any harm to person, guy or girl, and I killed them with a machete...
You killed an innocent person with a machete, would that be evil? I'd love to answer the question, and I'm going to try.
Go for it.
One more time, I'm going to try. So it still depends on your value system, right? So we're looking at this through a human-centric lens, as humans often do, right? So we breed chickens in cages and then we kill them and then we eat them, and that's okay with our value system.
Yes,
right?
it is, because they're delicious.
But from a chicken's value system, that's fucking evil,
that's
right?
really bad, yeah.
So it's subjective.
No, I would agree with that. It's a comedy.
We're not chickens, but we're not chickens.
No.
And we are humans.
But it's comedy, right?
I know we are.
No, comedy's the same, right?
This is the name of the podcast, by the way. We're not chickens.
No, 100%. And I'll quantify this, all right?
By the way.
Like, when you tell a joke, you can't tell a joke about someone below you. It has to always bat up.
No, I don't want this to go down.
Yeah,
I want the topic to go up.
Exactly.
I'm talking about power and being used for either really good.
I think Shio wrote a song about that.
Like elevating people, elevating humanity, or just fucking mass murder. Because that's what's going on in the world right now.
I agree, Mick. And I think on where it counts, I think we're aligned. I think we have some philosophical differences, but I think we need to look ourselves in the mirror as humanity and decide our collective values.
As Michael Jackson said, if we want to make a change, we're going to start by the man in the mirror.
I was singing that this morning. It's a great song.
It's a great song.
Man,
he had so many great songs. Bless his heart.
And what a moral quandary on the topic.
I know.
On the topic of morals.
Quandary. I love MJ.
His music is undeniable. His music is so good.
He had the problem with Macaulay Culkin, which is hard to walk past.
Yeah, and I mean,
Neverland or whatever it is, like.
Oh yeah, Grace. It was Neverland and Bubbles the monkey.
Honestly, like we still don't know if he's innocent or not, but only God knows that. Bless his soul.
Is it immoral to listen to the music and enjoy it deeply?
Dude, I
listen to Kanye's music. Is that allowed?
Yeah, well, true, but like I listen to Smooth FM. And when MJ comes on, I'm like, I feel a bit of like, is this right or wrong? Like,
yeah, it's true.
He doesn't mind.
We don't know. No one knows the truth. It's been hidden, but like, we don't know, right?
Macaulay has never been doing really well, but there could be other reasons.
Has he ever talked about it?
In jokes. But he never really... He made Home Alone. And he made Richie Rich.
Well, that's the same with Justin Bieber. No one knows if P. Diddy and him had
Well, the courts found out that maybe he did some of it, but not all of it.
2 of 5. So I think he got off on racketeering. That didn't stick, but some other stuff did stick. Yeah.
Let's put it
free, America.
Let's put it out here. He's not suicidal. If he's not Epstein,
he definitely knows. He's definitely got dirt on him.
Oh, dude, he's got a lot of dirt.
He's got videos.
That dude.
Yeah, he's got videos. He had some very powerful people at his parties.
Yes.
He had.
Yes.
besides Ashton Kutcher, lots of people of that ilk. Yeah.
So where were we getting to? We were talking about morality, objective good and evil. We disagreed. I said
We
that
still haven't figured out how you were going to
run a
lead
cult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, the fundamentals are there, right? All I'm saying is I'm not going to do what's right or wrong. I'm going to do what's necessary. Like it's just exactly what Winston Churchill said. Don't do what your country needs. No, don't do what your don't do what you can. Do what your country needs. Right. And so all I'm saying
that
is
was JFK that said that. He said, "Don't ask what."
We might be conflating different quotes.
Yeah. They're probably the same thing, but they're probably
Don't ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country.
Yeah, there's probably like Nero said that when he probably burned down the library of
Churchill
Nicodemus.
was also a pretty bad dude.
Yeah, dude, I'm not saying they're right or wrong.
Churchill created famines in Africa that killed
And
millions
dude,
of people.
I'm not saying anything about morality here. I'm just saying the control theory, right? I'm saying I'm going to do what it takes to become PM. And so, like, if you asked me, like, let's just take everything out. I'm not saying judge me as a good person or bad person. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do what it takes to become PM.
Okay,
And
so
I'm going to judge you as a bad person. And, you know, just getting to this, this is a really interesting topic because in the modern world, we have people doing a lot of things without decisions about if it's right, if it's wrong, but I'm going to do it because it's necessary. So we've got people like
Correct.
Zuckerberg, Musk, Peter Thiel, making these, and they're smart people, and they've probably got a touch of autism, and they're making decisions without any moral compass and not being held accountable by a good woman, as you were saying.
And this is exactly where I'm coming to, is like, who's holding the moral compass in today's society?
I think it's a headless chook. I think collectively, whatever happens based on the net result of everyone's chasing different things. So what does the system do in aggregate? The system does this. It advances technology. We kill a lot of people along the way. We have religious differences. We dig holes in the ground. We cut down trees. We take the fish out of the ocean. We put the plastic in the ocean. Collectively, this is what humanity does. That's the system.
Yeah, I mean, like, we could, in the span of human history or the history of the universe, I could reach out and touch the Neanderthals with this finger. And the question is, so we've not advanced far from the cave, and the question is, we've created all these systems and we've evolved probably further than we can understand for ourselves. And so, I don't think morality is subjective. I think some things are self-evident truths, and this is what I've always believed.
Give me a single self-evident truth, and I'll counter it.
That you shouldn't kill innocent people.
But where does it derive from?
That's a human-centric view, right? So so a different view, just for argument's sake. So from an ecological perspective, how's humanity going? So we've converted a lot of the arable surface of planet Earth into basically a feedlot for humanity. Was that good or bad?
Well, I won't make moral judgments on the environment, but I would say there's only a couple things that I can say as self-evident truths. Is you shouldn't kill innocent people.
Who's innocent? My innocent is your guilty.
By a system of norms.
Whose norms?
The collective.
There is no collective.
There's always a collective. We live in a collective.
No.
We meet on certain terms, but there's so much we disagree on, right? Like, let's say, like, I'm Muslim, you're Christian.
Israel and Palestine. That's a prime example. Like, you know,
like because
they've probably got the same God, but they don't want to share the same land.
How crazy is that? And you're incompatible just because of a few ideas about...
I mean... They probably have similar gods, no doubt.
Well, no, they are the same. That's not up for debate.
Well, I think Islam doesn't have a god so much. They have an Allah, but he's not
Allah is God.
He's not the Ishmael of the Torah.
No. So hang on. I can talk about.
Ishmael's not God.
I'm going to talk about this. They're all monotheistic.
Yeah, they're
monotheistic.
Yeah. Anyway, so
and they're all Abrahamic religions. Yeah, so they all come from the same root.
and so all that believe in the Torah, which is the Old Testament, right?
Yeah.
But the most fascinating thing is like one of the largest populations of Palestinians outside of Palestine is in Chile, and majority of them are Christian, and the reason why they're there is because they got pushed out of their own lands, and so they strongly support their Muslim brothers in having a land, and they want to have a land for themselves.
Yeah,
and so the question is, right? Like, and I don't think there's any right or wrong. Right, I don't know the answer. I'm not saying one side's right or wrong.
Carpet bombing someone is surely wrong.
No, but all I'm saying is like we go back to the argument of what do you do to become PM, and so that's exactly what they've done. They've created a cult.
Who? That like Netanyahu?
Anyone that wants power. Like I'm just looking at this very simplistic, like an ape. If I was an ape or an alien coming onto this planet Earth, and I'm saying, I want power, I want to be Scarface. What do I do?
Yeah, but let me come back to this Netanyahu example, right? So he thinks that carpet bombing Gaza and a genocide is going to keep him PM, but he's created a revolt within his own nation of people against his own actions.
I'd say he's wildly successful because he's still there.
He's wildly successful now, but his own parliament.
Yeah, he's got a lot of enemies.
His own
internally
parliament is trying to throw him out. His own courts are trying to try him for different things. So I think what you're getting at is he's holding on to power. He's maintaining power.
Yeah, but that's still success. Like it's creating an output. So let's just talk about the output as being PM or Prime Minister or whatever you need to be, President. He understands the control systems, so he's managing that. Like these guys might say the process is this, but he understands it greater than them, and he's controlling that.
He understands the other actors, like the US is another actor, and the EU is another actor, and the UN's another actor, and the International Atomic Agency is another actor. So yeah, he gets that system.
That's the unfortunate thing is most people don't break things down into control systems, and so
I struggle to understand the concept.
I think I'm getting it, but I'm not there yet.
Everything in life is an input and output, right? So you put something into something.
Do you think that's a bit cold? Like that's a bit of a cold way to look at. Like we're not robots.
Yeah, but like emotions, everything, it's all feedback systems. So how did we get a man on the moon? Feedback systems. How did we get married? Feedback systems.
Yeah, but why do we put a man on the moon?
It's not a question of why. It's the process. You want the output.
Stanley Kubrick
So
did.
how did you get married?
We had a relationship, and then we built that relationship, and then I proposed.
You observed the process. You wanted an output of marriage, and you did everything in the feedback loop to put inputs into that to create the outcome.
In retrospect, I did that, but as I was in it, I'm not my like robot vacuum that goes around.
I know that.
I didn't look at it. I didn't look at it in that crude analytical way.
Yeah, but it's very hard for most people.
Humans don't and shouldn't. And this is we spoke about AI before. This is the thing that AI is missing, is that humans make mistakes and they get things wrong, and that's the best part of being human.
This is very important.
If you're playing football, right?
Yeah.
You're playing football, we were talking about this today, and you get fed this beautiful through ball, and you take one too many touches and the ball comes off the keeper, that's still okay. You still learn, it's still good. You can't be a robot and score every time, because the keeper can't save it every time either. So
there was the old analogy, right? What were the Greek gods jealous about mortals about? And the fact that every second of their life was precious. So I'm not arguing that. All I'm arguing is everything is a process. If you want to achieve something, you just need to break it down to a process.
And you want to be somebody. You want to go somewhere.
Yeah, and I hate.
You gotta wake up and pay attention.
I hate to say it, like if you can break everything down in your life as a control feedback loop, you become successful. That is the recipe.
But then to what end? Because you'll be then sitting in a room like Scrooge McDuck on a pile of money. with no friends.
No, I'm not saying that's success. Like
shitting into a bag.
Like some
So
people.
relationships and hygiene could be some of your desired outputs, right?
Yeah, dude. So like, what's the scientific process?
So I'll pay someone to wipe my bum.
Like, let's break down what the scientific process is. Observing something, figuring out what it is, creating a hypothesis, and then go on through that loop.
Testing it.
Yeah, and what's quality control? Feedback loops. Everything is feedback loops.
Yeah, but you know, Oppenheimer, once he'd done that, he'd perfected it. He was...
But he created peace for longer than anyone else in world history.
Controversial.
Peace is very subjective to the people of Nagasaki.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. But hang on. We've been all living in comfort pretty comfortably.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that's as a direct result of having created nuclear weapons.
I mean, this is an argument that it has, but also...
Yeah, dude.
If we were the people of
Japan was on its last legs.
Yeah.
US would have won with conventional weapons.
They would have been about 2 million more people would have died to end the war.
But
without the nuke.
Mick, Richard and I were talking about this earlier this week, right? I went to the hospital and it was a multi-level car park, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a spiral. You had to keep spiraling all the way up. And I was up to the 5th level. I don't know, it's probably 10 levels high, right?
Yeah.
And I got up to the 5th level, right? So I'm halfway up of this tower of parking. I'm like, everything's full. And all of a sudden there's a free parking right in front of me. So I found the first free parking. I've gone 5 levels up. And I don't know how long it's taken. We go 5 levels up. So I've indicated... And car park's small, like, so you got to remember, like, this is like suburban multi-level car park.
Yeah,
they're not designed to go forward.
Yeah, tiny ones. Yeah,
you got to reverse.
Get as many parks in as you can.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to reverse in, right? So indicate, plan to reverse in. Some guy just zoomed straight into my parking spot.
That's rude.
Yeah, very rude.
I mean, that's objectively evil.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
we can all agree on that.
We agree.
No, hang on. Right or wrong, I don't know what his scenario is. He could have saved 100 lives and I could have not saved any lives, and that could have been more valuable. I'm not judging him, right? But I'm just putting in perspective my scenario, right? So
you would have judged him to hell when he did that.
No, I 100% did. So what happened was when he zoomed into my parking, I got out of my car and I said to him, "Excuse me, mate, do you realise that that was my parking and you just gone in there?" And he's gone, sorry, I didn't see you indicate. And then I'm like, And I think like this, and I'm very empathetic in all arguments. I'm like, is this a strong argument? And so, yeah, it probably can be true. Like, he's coming this way, my car's this way, and I've indicated that way, and he's come from this way. He can't see my indicator. And I said to him, I called him out. I said, yeah, that's probably true. You probably couldn't see my indicator. But my language of my car was showing that I was going to reverse in that manner anyway.
Yeah.
So I said, language is and postures is everything, right? I said, if I'm showing posture that I'm going to do something, you've got to read that, and you're behind me. You can't just go forward into any intersection without reading what the car in front of you is doing. You got to do something if it's safe to do so. And then he's arguing, well, I've got an appointment and I need to get to that and I'm late. And I said to him, no, I'm sorry. I said to him, look, I'm sorry. That's not my problem, right? Honestly, you've created that problem. You could have come earlier. You could have done this and that.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you. I'm not saying that you're not important. You probably need to get that appointment. But I said to him, the most important thing out of all this was that I've positioned myself and said, and I came before you, and that was my parking, right? And he goes, oh, well, I'm sorry. I said to him, mate, you're not sorry, because if you're sorry, first thing I've learned when I was very young was don't apologize for something you're not serious.
Don't say sorry unless you mean it.
100%. So I said, look, if you're really sorry, you would rectify this situation. And he goes, well, I can't do that because I'm late. And I said, well, that's something you created, not I created. And I said, now the fact that we're arguing about this and my car's in the way, we've blocked. And so now what you're saying is your time's more important than everybody else. I said, I'm going to move my car, but you can still rectify this situation. He goes, well, I'm not going to do that. Now, still to this day, I don't know if he's right or wrong. He could have been a doctor. He could have gone in there. He could have had an appointment, saved 10 lives, and I was just there to see my mate and say, you know what, all the best, right? I don't know. I still don't know who's right or wrong in this situation. And that's the beautiful thing about life. Nothing is right or wrong. Same thing with archery. Archery, there's no correct or best technique. The most important thing about archery is consistency. So if you shoot your bow and your arrow goes off that direction and you correct for your arrow and it always hits bullseye, that doesn't mean your technique's wrong. Because a lot of people tell you your technique's wrong. The most important thing is the end goal. And this is why I'm saying control theory is paramount.
So
because
you're still saying that the outcome is... So the means will always justify the end.
no, I'm not saying, look, so like this opens a whole lot of trap doors, right? Like I'm saying, like, if you're just outcome driven, you don't worry about the process, right? I'm not saying what's right or wrong or morality. We can talk about morality another time, but I'm saying if you're outcome driven, you need to focus on what the feedback loop and inputs that gets you the outcome. So if your outcome is evil, you optimize your feedback loop for evil.
Yeah.
If your outcome is morality, you optimize your outcome loop, your outcome for good things.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I do think everything is systems, and I do think we optimize for different things, and our lives, our personal lives are systems, and we optimize for what we can. If you're running out of batteries, Mick, and I think that might be a collective experience.
Yeah.
I think we can...
I think we call it here.
Running out of batteries? What's running out of batteries?
Oh, he's saying
we don't run out of batteries.
I think he's saying it's time to end the episode.
Okay. We're an energy company. We got energy.
But this was a great conversation. I
This
enjoyed
has been
very
a brilliant
much.
conversation. It's definitely been a very wide-ranging conversation. It's been great to have another person in to challenge our views and often the stream that we swim in.
Sometimes you got to go against the current to know what the current is.
Works for the salmon.